So in February, I told you how Amazon was going to be restricting Kindle users' books. As of February 26, 2025, you can no longer use the download and transfer via USB feature on the Amazon site. This prevents customers and users of the Kindle products, anybody who has bought a book through the Kindle store, from being able to download the file from the website and store that file locally on their computer. If you're just finding out about this now and you're looking to get some more information on this change, I've linked a video above where I spoke on this topic. However, if you are looking to download your books now, unfortunately, you're too late. A lot of people are rightfully very frustrated at Amazon over this change. It just seems like one more step in the slow erosion of what it truly means to own the products we pay for. One of the top comments that I got in those videos where I spoke about this change that Amazon was making, restricting the ownership of Kindle books, was what alternatives are out there for me if I'm looking to switch away from Amazon and Kindle products. And folks, that's exactly what we're talking about today. If you're looking to make that switch away from the Amazon Kindle ecosystem, I have two really great alternatives for you, and we'll get into that now. But first, if you don't know me, I'm Spencer, and I like to talk about simple living, frugality, and digital minimalism. Let's get into it. So I started my e-reader journey off with this device right here. This is the Amazon Kindle Basic. In many ways, I was really satisfied with this e-reader up until this point. I've had this for a few years now, and it was doing just fine for me. A couple of the things which I didn't really like about it that much were the fact that it had this micro USB port. I think that this should have been upgraded to USB-C a long time ago. And also the fact that in Canada, you're not able to use the Libby or Overdrive app to get library books on this device. Now, I've never liked buying books from Amazon that had any sort of DRM, any sort of copy protection on the files. I didn't like that if I ever switched away from the Kindle ecosystem, I couldn't bring most of my books with me. So I really liked the idea of being able to get ebooks from the library, being able to rent them just like you are when you're paying for a Kindle book, you're renting the license to really use it. And then I could give it back, but it was all free of charge if I was doing it through the library. So not having that feature on here was a little bit of a disappointment. On this device, I did buy some DRM locked books. I bought some like author collections. I think I got all of Ernest Hemingway, maybe all of Jack London, and I think I got all the James Bond books as well. The main thing that I bought on this device though were books from small independent authors, because those books don't have any sort of DRM, any sort of copy protection on the files. So if I ever moved away from Kindle, which I ended up doing, I'd be able to take all of my books with me using that download and transfer via USB button. Speaking about the functionality of this device though, I have no complaints. If you've ever dealt with an e-ink screen before, they can really reflect a lot of the ambient light in the room, and they don't need any sort of front light or back light in order to be able to see them, as long as you have some light in your room. This device also does have a front light built into it, so you can turn the brightness up if you're going to be reading in the dark, like reading just before bed or anything like that. But in my mind, I actually don't really like turning on that front light. For me, the purpose of having an e-reader is to reduce eye strain, right? It's giving you the portability of reading on a digital device, but it's not really supposed to be any more straining on your eyes than just looking at the page of a book. Whereas looking at an LCD screen that's backlit, you're basically looking right into the light source, which can cause a lot of strain on your eyes. E-ink isn't supposed to do that because it reflects the light in the room and therefore doesn't need any more light than the page of a book would normally need. So generally on any e-reader I'm ever going to own, I don't really want to turn the light on this thing, but it is nice to know that I have it in case I was reading in a very low light area. And honestly, I didn't really have any issues with this device up until the February 26th change where they removed the ability to download the books that you paid for. However, for Christmas last year, my parents surprised me and gave me this, which is the Kobo Clara Color. Now, I had mentioned that I thought this was a pretty interesting device. I liked what Kobo did with this thing. And it just so happened that getting this gave me my way out of the Amazon Kindle ecosystem just before that February 26th change happened, so I was largely unaffected already. Now, if you haven't heard of Kobo before, Kobo is Amazon's main competitor, and they're owned by a company called Rakuten. And putting this device right up beside my Kindle, they're very, very similar. They're almost the exact same size, pretty much an identical form factor. If you're going from one to the other, you're going to find it a pretty smooth transition. Similarly to Amazon through their Kindle store, you're able to go to Kobo's website to their own store and buy books and then load them onto this device either via Wi-Fi or via a cord. This thing really checked the boxes for me compared to my Kindle. Even though I really enjoyed the Kindle, this thing just had all of those nice quality of life updates, which I appreciated. For me, the USB-C charging is huge because almost everything charges on USB-C nowadays, so when traveling, you don't have to bring nearly as many cables. Another huge thing is that with this last batch of Kobos that they released, the last few models, these ones have a partnership with iFixit so that they're repairable. In our world of planned obsolescence, it is hard to find a device that is actually built to last, or at least built to be even repaired. Apple is notorious for this, gluing the batteries into the case and making it extremely hard to even get into the thing to do any work on their devices. Now, I'm honestly not sure how easy or hard it was to do any repairs on older Kindles and Kobos, but this time, Kobo partnered up with iFixit to make that process as easy as possible. Going on the iFixit website, which I'll link below if you're interested in checking it out, you're able to buy the parts that you need if you want to replace any component on the Kobo e-reader, and then you can find instructions on how to do it as well. When you order the parts, it also comes with the necessary tools to do the job, and then you can follow the instructions on the website, and it makes it a breeze. Now, thankfully, I haven't had any issues with this device yet. This has been completely perfect for me, but if anything does come up down the line, I know I can rely on that website and that resource to make sure that this thing keeps running and I can use it for years. And as I said before, and as you can tell by looking at this device, this is the Kobo Clara Color Edition. It has a color screen. Now, if you look online, you might see some mixed opinions of these color e-readers. There's definitely a little bit of give and take to get that color on this device. One of the biggest things which I'm personally bothered by is the fact that it impacts the brightness a little bit. You know, it works fine in this room. I can open the book for you here and you can get a sense. You can still pretty easily read that screen, but it definitely takes it down at least the equivalent of 5 or 10% brightness by having that extra color on the screen. Just to explain that quickly, this is still a black and white e-reader. The way that they get color on this thing is they basically put a color filter over the entire screen, and what that does is it basically puts another layer of basically diffusion over top of the original reflective e-reader screen that, you know, takes the ambient light and makes it so easy to see. By having that color filter on there, that added layer, it makes it less reflective, and therefore you need a little bit more light in order to see as clearly as you would on a black and white device. I'll show you a little bit of what I mean here. I have the Kobo and I have the Kindle. Both are here on 0 brightness. As you can see, the Kobo on the one side is the one that is a little bit gray and a little bit darker. Why I'm particularly bothered by this is just because of what I said earlier. I like to read on this e-reader with the brightness completely off. I don't want any sort of artificial light added to be bouncing back at my face. I just want to be able to have the natural light reflected off of the page and be able to read with as little eye strain as possible. Now, as you can see, this is still perfectly readable, and as long as I'm in a room with pretty good light, I'm still able to see this fine. And even at night, I would just read this like I would read a normal book, and I would put on a lamp or something and sit near the lamp. If I'm in a dark room, I would sit near the light source to do my reading, and I do the same on this device. I do hope that in the future, when they're able to make later iterations of this device, they're able to get that color experience without impacting the ability to reflect the ambient light, because that to me is the major selling point of the e-reader devices, not the color screen. Overall, using this device is a breeze. If you're used to just using a Kindle e-reader, it's not going to be a huge transition for you. You just have to make an account on Kobo, and you're going to find a very similar experience of purchasing and uploading your books. But differently than Kindle, you are able to download the files and store them locally on your computer once you've purchased them. There also are more DRM-free or Adobe DRM, which is a more standardized DRM, offerings on the Kobo store, so you're able to get a little bit of a more multi-purpose file that can be used on other brands of e-readers that maybe use that same compatible DRM. One of the other things that I wanted to mention about this device before I move on to my second recommendation was the fact that in Canada, this is compatible with Overdrive or with Libby. You're able to download ebooks from your library for free on this device and use them for a period of time. I think I'd heard that you're also able to download audiobooks on here and maybe play them through speakers somewhere on this thing, but I have not tried that yet. Having the library app on here is a huge plus to me. I'm a big library user. I would say I'm a library power user, and I will definitely be talking about that in the future. I get DVDs, I get books, I get CDs, and I get ebooks from the library. And having that ability to do that on this device is a huge plus for me. So when I made that video talking about the change over at Kindle, my biggest suggestion for people was to look to Kobo, because Kobo is going to give you a very similar experience to what you got over at Amazon on the Kindle, but it's going to give you a little bit more protection of the ownership of your media. It looks very similar, the experience is very similar, it's not going to ruffle any feathers in making the change, and the price is pretty much the same. But recently, folks, I received another very cool e-reader device, which I'm very excited to show you because I think it's a very interesting alternative if you're looking to kind of go a completely different direction of the Kobo Kindle binary, let's call it. And that device is this one right here, the Boox Palma 2. Now, if you haven't heard of the Boox Palma or the Boox Palma 2, you might be like, what is this crazy device? It looks like Spencer's holding a big white smartphone in his hand. And that is pretty much what this thing is. The Boox Palma 2 is a fully functioning e-ink Android tablet. It can do almost everything that a phone can do except for making texts and calls because it doesn't have a SIM card, but it can do a whole lot. Now, I'd heard about this device before from creators like MKBHD and even in the dumbphone space from people like Jose, but I'd never been fortunate enough to get my hands on one of these. So I reached out to Boox and I asked them if they would send me a copy of the Palma 2 to try out and talk about on the channel. I was very excited to see what the capabilities, what the added features would really give me by having a more fully featured e-ink tablet rather than just an e-reader. Now, Boox did send me this device, but they're not making me say anything. They don't have to see this video before I released it or anything like that. They just sent it to me because I told them I would talk about it once they sent it over. I just wanted to compare it and really see how this thing stacked up to the more standard e-reader options from Kobo and Kindle. Now, I've had this device for a little bit over 2 weeks now. It'll probably be close to 3 by the time this video comes out. And I'm really enjoying it so far. This thing has really knocked my socks off. Of course, some of the standout features are the form factor. This thing is shaped like a cell phone, and it's a lot more portable as a result. These other e-readers, they're also pretty thin and they're also quite portable. Like, as far as thickness is concerned, they're pretty much the same. But I couldn't really bring this with me unless I was bringing a bag or something. I mean, I could stick it in my back pocket, but that's not really feasible. And it always stuck out in most of my coat pockets when I tried to take it with me. So I had to kind of more intentionally bring this. If I was going on a more long-term outing and I wanted to just bring the e-reader with me, then I could bring the Kobo. But with something like this, that actually is the size of a cell phone, it very easily slips into the pocket of my pants or even the pocket of a jacket, and I can bring it with me for shorter outings, and I find that I have this with me a lot more than I ever had my Kindle or my Kobo. This is a fully black and white device, no color here, and I actually really appreciate that. I really liked the color on my Kobo Clara color. However, I really appreciate just having a black and white device again because I just like how clean the screen looks and how much brighter it is because it doesn't have that color filter over it. As much as I love having the color screen for looking at the covers of my books as I sort through my library and pick which one I'm going to read, or even just looking at the sleep screen on the Kobo Clara color, it's nice to have that color screen. However, most of the books you're going to read aren't picture books. Most of the books you're going to read are text, and black and white should really be the priority. So my recommendation, if you're considering getting just a Kobo Clara color or even the black and white version, is to prioritize text if most of the time you're just reading books with text. If you're reading comic books and manga or something like that, perhaps you want to go for the color e-reader screen, but for me, I think the black and white is still the best option as far as the technology goes today. As I mentioned, this is an Android tablet, and this has all of the features you would find on any Android device. I haven't really installed many apps on here. I just kind of want it for an e-reader still, but the things that were really exciting to have on here for me was the web browser. Now look, I would never pervert this device by putting social media on it, but one of the things that excited me the most about this thing was the fact that it had a web browser and I would be able to read blogs on the go on an e-ink screen. A couple of my favorite longtime bloggers are Rand Prier and Jacob Lynn Fisker from Early Retirement Extreme. I've talked about that book a lot on this channel, and his blog has a well of information that you wouldn't find in the book. There's got to be hundreds or even maybe 1,000 posts on that blog, and I love going there almost daily and just reading a few of the articles. I would normally read it on my computer, which is a normal backlit screen, which isn't really good for your eyes. It puts a lot of strain on your eyes, and the same goes for my phone. With this device having Wi-Fi, I'm able to read any blog that I want. I'm able to read online print like a magazine or newspaper. I can read any of that stuff and I can have it on an e-ink screen with the minimal amount of strain possible. This device is great. You can also change the refresh rate on it. So when you're reading an ebook, it can be that slower ebook refresh rate, or you can make it fast when you're doing something like the web. Watch how fast this can go. I think you can even turn it up faster than this, but like That's as fast as I need. It's not doing any of those big chunky refreshes that you would see on an older e-reader style. On top of the web browser, this device can do anything that you would find on a normal Android tablet, including taking photos. Now, I was skeptical about the quality of the camera on here. I was like, how good could this thing be? And it's kind of hard to know what your photo is going to really look like because you're looking at it through an e-ink screen. However, I was surprised. It actually turned out really nice. I was pleasantly surprised by the outcome of using this camera. The real bonus though, which I think makes the Boox Palma 2 a very compelling option, if you're looking to switch away from the Kindle and not just kind of make a lateral move up into kind of a higher category of e-reader device, is the fact that this thing is an Android device and it can download any sort of apps you want, including the Kindle app. As you may know, after you were no longer able to download the files onto your device from the Amazon website, you were still able to get them on whatever device you wanted as long as you were using the Kindle Reader app. Whereas on the Kobo, there is no way for you to read Amazon DRM-laden books on that device. Because this is an Android tablet, you're able to kind of bypass that by downloading the Kindle Reader app on this thing and then downloading all of your books as you normally would. This functions the same way as you would reading the Kindle books on your phone on the app or reading it on your laptop on the app. You can even do the same thing with the apps you purchase through the Kobo store, which makes this thing double trouble in my mind. And of course, you can also download the Libby app on this device as well, so I have access to all of my library books as well as audiobooks that way too. Now I'm reading all of the books on here through the default app that came installed on the device called Library, and I've had no problems with it so far. I don't really have any reason to try anything else. I'm pretty satisfied. However, once again, since this is an Android device, you're able to download whatever reader app you want, and you have a lot more customization options than you ever could get on a Kindle or a Kobo device. Now, I can't talk about all of the pros of this device because there are a lot without talking about the one big but that's in the room. And it's not mine. This device is expensive, at least compared to the offerings that I have from Kobo and Kindle. The base model Kindle that I have costs around $110 US to get new. The Kobo Clara Color is around $159 to get new. The Boox Palma 2 costs as much as both of them put together at $279.99 US. Now, I'll be the first to admit that that is pretty pricey, and in fact, that's why I didn't buy one of these myself up until this point, because I just needed an e-reader. I didn't need all of the other features that were built into this, or so I thought, so I was just fine with the more lower budget options like the Kobo and the Kindle. However, now that I have this device, if it broke, or if I lost it, or if it was stolen, I would definitely replace it with another e-ink Android device like this. There is another budget option out there on AliExpress called the Moen Ink Palm 5 if you're looking for something that is kind of similar to this, but that costs a little bit less money. However, though I haven't tried the Ink Palm 5, though I would like to, I do think that this is just a much more polished device just by looking at the videos that I've seen on the Ink Palm 5. The Ink Palm 5 often comes in Chinese, so you're not really able to read half the menus, and you might have to dive into the internet to kind of figure out a way to actually change the settings to your liking. And another thing is that it comes with a glossy screen as opposed to the matte one on this device. Now, e-ink is e-ink. I'm happy with e-ink anything, but having a glossy screen on an e-ink device, it just takes away that papery feel that makes the e-ink so appealing. So it definitely does have to have some points deducted for that, and I'd have to give the points to the Boox Palma 2 for just being such a clean, polished device. I really can't tell you guys how nice this thing feels in the hand. It's such a nice device. It's dense. You know, it has a little bit of a weight to it, but it is light. It just feels quality. It has a nice, like, textured back to it, which feels very nice in the hand. I also got a case from Boox as well. They gave me one of these, like, I call them a mom case because my mom has a similar one on her phone with a flap like this. Now, I would never use something like this for my cell phone because I just find it too bulky. But with an e-reader, just given the different kind of use case that I have with this device, I actually like having the flap because it kind of acts as a screen protector for this thing, and it just keeps the screen in a little bit better condition when I'm just taking it around in my bag or in my pocket or however. Final thoughts here, folks. If you're looking to switch away from the Kindle and you're not really sure what way you want to go, I think that these are two really great options that can kind of meet you where you're at, whatever your budget is and whatever your needs are. If you're looking to make a move from Kindle over to something very similar, you don't want to be part of that ecosystem anymore, but you kind of want a similar experience, then I think the Kobo is going to do right by you. However, if you want a more premium experience, you want a few more features, and you want to move up a little bit and maybe have something that's going to offer a little bit more to you down the line, then I think you should really consider the Boox Palma 2. And a great happy medium if you're looking for kind of a compromise. You like what Boox is offering here with the Palma 2, but you don't really like that price tag so much. Boox still sells the Palma 1, and I think it's $199 US, so it's quite a bit cheaper. It has a few lower specs compared to this thing, but it is still a very similar device. I hope you enjoyed this video, folks. I think if you're looking to make that switch away from the Kindle ecosystem, there's plenty of fish out there. The water's warm, so just jump on in, and you're gonna find a great option that perfectly fits your needs. There's also several other great brands of e-readers on the market that I just don't personally have any experience with, but do your research and I'm sure you'll find something that works perfectly for you. If you have any questions about anything I said today or didn't say in this video, let me know down below. Let me know what e-readers you have experience with, what you enjoy, and even what you recommend. I would love to hear from you down in the comments. If you want to support the work I do here on the channel, as well as get access to bonus videos that I post quite regularly, then check out my Patreon because I'm sharing on there all the time and I'd love to have you over there. Thanks very much for watching, folks, and I'll see you in the next one.